Day 5 of WFS Live, powered by Ronaldo. As they say, all good things must come to an end, but we are determined to go out on a high with a bang as we close our first ever virtual conference. So we have some stellar guests from the world of football with us today. Managers, presidents, players past and present, legendary referees as well. You could honestly not wish for a better cast list. So as you know, lots of ways for you to be interactive with WFS Live powered by Ronaldo on the chat, questions and polls on social media, at WF Summit on Twitter, at World Football Summit on Instagram. Just while we're preparing for this first session, we're trying to get in touch, you can probably see, with Didier Drogba, the Ivory Coast international, formerly of Marseille and Chelsea, of course, who is trying to connect to the platform right now. But whilst he does that, and whilst we're just going through a few technical checks, and hopefully we will have him with us, just a little reminder of the Guess the Shirt in David's Background competition that we keep running every single day. And I have to say, you've been great with this, but today's a real toughie. It's a real toughie. I'll give you 3 clues. They've won their National League top division title 14 times. They have a big rival with the team called Barcelona, but not the one you're thinking of. And they're known as El Bombillo, which means the light bulb. Don't go Googling now. Have a think. See if you can come up with the answer. So let's start then our first session of day 5 of WFS Live, powered by Ronaldo. Tomorrow will be 10 years since the 2010 World Cup final, the biggest celebration of football that we've had today in Africa, perhaps one of the best and most colourful and vibrant festivals of football that I've been privileged enough to witness. I do vividly remember being there at Soccer City on the 11th of July, 2010. Sad that it was all over, but genuinely curious about how football in Africa would be boosted and would develop over the next decade. As we know, on the pitch, talent is plentiful. We can see that from the many African players excelling in the top European leagues, infrastructure building, processes improving, getting sharper. Of course, we know the continent can boast some of the most passionate and engaged fans in the world. And there are challenges, but then every continent has challenges. So let's be positive. Let's look forward and let's find out what the African football of tomorrow may well look like in partnership with the HEA Sports. Let's introduce our speakers. The Managing Director of HEA Sports, Hicham Amrani, the Manager of South African Premier League soccer team, Mamelodi Sundowns, Pitso Mosimane, the General Secretary of CAF, Abdel, and your moderator, sports anchor at Supersport International, the First Lady of Sports, Carol Shabalala. Carol, over to you.
Oh, David, you're too kind. What a welcome. Thank you so much. Such an honor to be here, to be a part of what really has so far been an unbelievable summit. And as you said, all good things must come to an end. We're extremely excited to bring you the African perspective now and talk about an exciting future that lies ahead for the African game. So you've had my panelists introduced already to everyone that is watching. So let's get to know them a little bit better and now hear from them. These are some of the leading minds when it comes to the African game. I'm going to start off with my coach, Pitso Mosimane. Coach, great to have you as part of this particular panel. We're talking about the African perspective and African football of tomorrow. Coach, why do you think it's so important to have a dialogue like this?
Thank you, Carol, and thanks for having me here. And I also want to thank the WFS for giving me the opportunity to be here. It's a big platform. It's a great platform. Yeah, I think it's information, knowing what's happening around the world. It was so interesting for me to listen to Andrea Razzirani last time of the work he's doing and the passion he has for Leeds Football Club. And I was happy to listen to also the legend Butrageno. So beautiful, you know, you get so much information and you learn a lot. You look at football different because I'm a football coach. I'm always talking about tactics, but you know, I've learned so much here.
You certainly have, and everyone that's watching is now going to learn about the African game. Let me hear from Abdel. Abdel, great to have you as well as part of this. You've gone from commercial director at CAF and now, of course, the general secretary. What makes the African narrative a unique one?
Thank you very much, Carl. Very happy to be here. Very happy to be part of this incredible panel. Definitely in Africa, we have a lot of specificities. I mean, the passion that we have in Africa is quite unique in the world. I know when you watch a football game in Africa, you have show on the pitch, but also show in the stands. So this is one of our particularity. The passion that we have is quite unique in the world.
It definitely is. Hicham, you know all about the passion of the African game as well. And I think what makes this conversation a very interesting one is that, you know, we've got something to celebrate. It's 10 years now from the 2010 FIFA World Cup. One would think that, you know, following on from the successes from that World Cup in South Africa, on the African continent, that we've got a very bright future to look forward to.
Yes, thank you very much, Carol, and good afternoon to everybody. Also delighted to be with you here today. It is indeed, time flies. 10 years already passed since South Africa did a brilliant job and a very well organized and hosted World Cup with unique flavor, with the vuvuzelas, with some cold weather from time to time, but also people have seen the diversity and beauty of the country. But most importantly, I think, down the line, the impact that can be measured today has been tremendous in terms of change of perception, not only of the country, South Africa, but of the continent, having also, I think, achieved a much better image, favored more tourism, but also the showing to the world the capacity to host the biggest sporting event that exists. So it gave also a lot of self-belief, not only to South Africans, but to Africans in general. And that helped also a sense of cohesion towards the organization of such a tremendous tournament. So therefore, there was a lot of misconceptions and wrong perceptions, or what we call cliches, that I do remember, having had the privilege of attending such a World Cup, that before that people were talking about insecurity, about various issues here and there. But at the end, South Africa showed the world that it did a perfect job. And that was really good to see from our perspective.
That's right. What are some of the other successes, Coach, that we can talk about from having hosted that World Cup? You were actively involved in terms of guiding Bafana, the SA national soccer team. What successes did hosting that World Cup and having the whole eyes of global football on us, on the African continent, what successes did it bring?
Yeah, just to mention what Hicham was saying, for me, the biggest thing is for the world to know that Africa is ready to host the World Cup, you know, and was the best. I mean, at that time, the president of FIFA said this World Cup he ever hosted, you know, and the stadium was completed on time. You know, people always have doubts about Africa that the stadiums won't be there. The stadiums were there and super, world class stadium. You know, stadiums that are advanced with the technology, you know, the smart stadia that we're talking about. But above that is to bring the world into Africa, because most of the people in the world haven't been to Africa. And for them to see what Africa is about, and I think South Africa never disappointed. And that's why me personally, I was rooting for Morocco, and Hicham has done a good work there. And I really wanted them to host it, because I'm almost living in Morocco, to be honest, in my space. But we have all the infrastructure done, the hotels, the roads. I mean, we can host another World Cup now, tomorrow. We have hosted the Cup of Nations after the Didier was there showing what he can do and making Africa proud. And I think we made Africa proud, and nobody can doubt Africa if it can host the World Cup. I mean, recently we just hosted Barcelona now. Everybody was there. It was a beautiful game that my team played against Barcelona. They never doubted, because they know the stadium, they know the hotels. I mean, Andre Iniesta, it was his favorite. He says it's his favorite stadium because he scored the winning goal of the World Cup there. Beautiful. Africa is ready.
Certainly is. Didier, joining us in this very important conversation. Yeah, you were here in South Africa. You were taking part as well as part of the Elephants. So you know about the great successes of that particular World Cup. But, you know, Coach talks about how great that event was. But following on from that, have we seen a progression in African football since the 2010 FIFA World Cup?
Yeah, I think, and I really believe, like, first of all, hi everyone, and sorry about the inconvenience. Yeah, I believe the World Cup in South Africa was the beginning of a new way of thinking in Africa. We believed that we could host a World Cup, and you can see when I don't remember which country couldn't organize it in 2013. Straight away, South Africa was ready. Like you said, Mr. Hicham said, South Africa was ready to take it, to host it. And you can see now competitions like CAF, Champions League, and even all the qualification games. You see the setup is completely different from the previous years, from before the World Cup. It looks like we finally understood and believed that we are ready to host the World Cup, to host big events, and in terms of security as well. A lot of people were, there are doubts about organizing a World Cup in South Africa, and I have to say I was really, really proud, because I've been there before, and of course, like in every country, there's insecurity in some ways, but for a big event like this, I think the whole continent was behind South Africa, and hoping that things go well so we can get another chance to host it.
Yeah, I know, Abdel, you also want to add your thoughts here about the actual legacy, just, listening to what the other panelists have said, the actual legacy of that World Cup for Africa.
Thank you very much, Carl. You're right that at the end, Africa has been part of football history from the beginning, and especially the history of the World Cup. Egypt participated to one of the first edition in the 30s. Unfortunately, then our African continent has been put aside a little bit from the World Cup history. But thanks to this big success, thanks to this edition organized in South Africa, we show to the world, as mentioned by the other panelists, that we can do it. We have challenges, definitely, but we can do it. We have the passion, we have the will. We are able to deliver world-class facilities. The Cape Town Stadium is one of the most beautiful stadium in the world. Today in Cameroon, for the next AFCON, they are building also world-class stadium. So we can do it, and we are fully part of the World Cup history. And the next one, which will be open for a bid, will be the century one, 100 years after the first one. So I really hope, and we will have to be prepared for that, to host it in our continent in 2030.
Abdel, we've been making such amazing progress, as you rightfully said. Obviously, the pandemic, the global pandemic, COVID-19, has been a major inconvenience, and it set so many different federations and associations back. African football is one of those that has been gravely affected. Tell us about the impact of this crisis when it comes to our economic sustainability of African football, Abdel.
Thank you, Carol. Definitely, this unprecedented event has had a big impact all over the world, and especially in Africa. We had to stop all football activities. So it has impacted the competition at the continent level, but also local competition. It has very bad impact. The most impacted entities, I think, were the club. So yes, big damage, unfortunately, on our sport. But we have to go through it. We are putting a lot of efforts on CAF side with the support of FIFA also to make sure that all the football entities in our continent, starting with the clubs, with the leagues, with the federation, will be able to stand up again and will be able to keep the investment in the development of our football. We need it more than ever. So hope that with all this effort, we will be able very quickly to come back on the field and to resume the footballers' activities in Africa.
Hicham, what have been some of the other major challenges to African football that we are experiencing because of this pandemic?
Well, I think there are many challenges. There were challenges, obviously, before even the pandemic, but now there are short-term obligations that must be met, and this is where we strongly need unity and solidarity at the present time, together with the right stakeholders approach. And the short term means stabilizing the clubs, stabilizing the livelihood of players. And Mr. Drogba can know well that a lot of players are struggling right now. Some of them are not protected by the right contracts, or do not seek or do not have the right legal support. So we need to look first at the players, because the players is the raw material of football. It's the everything that football has to offer. So I think in the short term, we need to pay attention to the vast majority of clubs that are not Mamelodi Sundowns or Ahli or Raja Casablanca, but those that financially can have some struggle, and see how they can get the support. It's very laudable to see what FIFA and CAF have done by providing financial support and technical support, and providing an RTP process about the return to play. But I hope as well that within each country, the federation, together with the Ministry of Sports, the governments, and all the different stakeholders really come together and look at the livelihood of the players, the coaches, the staff within clubs, to make sure that they don't lose their jobs. So I think this is the first priority before moving on into ensuring that either they finish the competitions or plan for the next season for those countries that decided to cancel the competition. But there needs to be a kind of flexibility, but also a lot of solidarity and unity, but not only as a word, but with actions.
Yeah, Didier, I know that you know about the role that former footballers as well can play in the different countries, in the different federations all over Africa. It's something that you're doing, that your former mates are also doing through their different foundations. Tell us about your plans and your hopes for the Football Federation in Cote d'Ivoire, also knowing, of course, that you're a candidate that's running for the presidency there, and the role that former footballers can play when it comes to channeling African football to the next level.
Well, I believe football players are one of the major actors of one of the, if I can say, one of the major stakeholders of the industry, and without them, it's very difficult to have a game. You know, you can have the owners, you can have the sponsors, you can have the race, you can have the doctors, and etc. But without the players, it's very difficult to have a game, and a beautiful game. So we have to protect the players, and by securing the contracts, or helping them to think and to educate them to understand that there's a life after football, and this can help in times like what we're living now, like the ones we are living now. And I think from my own experience in different continents, I played in America, in Africa, in Europe, in US. I think what I really understood was the difference between all these continents, and how ours is the way they see football. They see it as an industry. They have developed in Europe and in US, they have developed football as an industry, where most of our countries are thinking football just as a sport, which is why I believe we still have some problems to go, like we had in the last World Cup 2018. None of our countries went through the group stages, because even in the way we're playing, we are still playing like the same way we were playing 15, 20 years ago, when the game has moved on. And in terms of strategy, I think that's what we need to address all together. And of course, I know we have CAF, who is doing a lot for the countries, but ourselves, like in our countries, players, owners, team owners, and the federations, we need to transform the quality we have in our players, the quality we have in our the quality we have in our fans, in our culture, We need to transform that into an industry to make sure that in difficult moments like this, when difficult moments like this one happens, the players and the owners are kind of secure. I mean, we can how do you say that? Control the damages.
Yep. I think, Didier, you've led us now to another angle of this conversation when we talk about some of the important trends that we need to adopt now for a brighter future for African football. And we've got some interesting questions that are coming through because the individuals that are attending, of course, this wonderful summit, they also are sending through some of their questions. I'll ask those very shortly. But before we move on in that direction, Coach, I know you want to talk about the effects of COVID-19 and now returning to play, because it's something that you are currently experiencing as the coach of Sundowns Football Club as you prepare to get back to playing. But there have been some major challenges, haven't there, as compared to the models that you have seen, for example, in European football so far?
Yeah, Carol, we are experiencing big challenges, and I think South Africa is almost like 12th in the world as the most affected country, and I think number one in Africa, to be honest. You know, if I'm not mistaken, closer to Egypt. If I'm not having my effects of today. You know, yeah, we have challenges because obviously the situation is that we are reaching our peak now in South Africa. You know, it's like when New York was reaching its peak, when America was reaching its peak, and Italy and Spain. So we are in that space now. We are reaching our peak. It's winter here also, and we're trying our best. And when you look at football, we are just started to come to football, to start to train now, and following the protocols and the principles inside COVID-19. And I've based my team on models that I see in Europe. Of course, Europe has got more support than Africa in terms of finance. I think maybe I can't talk on behalf of Abdel, and Hicham knows the story also. I mean, UEFA had so much to give to the football. Unlike we, the continent, we don't have as much as UEFA has. But we're doing our best to make sure that we do the testing, we follow. You know, I based my team's model on Man City, and we are not Man City. We don't have the same resources, but I just copied almost the model of Man City, and making sure that we I mean, from even the parking lot at the team, making sure that we have different parking lots, different stations. We don't use the dressing rooms to train. You know, you come straight, we have your kit, you come straight to the pitch and you train, and you have your own space to allocate when you're changing your boots. You have your own water bottle, you know, making sure that we adhere to government policies and to health policies. We don't take it for granted. And of course, I could not give everything as Man City gave, but I think where we are, we're doing well. We test almost every 3-4 days. And it's a struggle for the teams to test in South Africa every 3-4 days because it costs a lot of money. You know, football in COVID is expensive. It's not the same as before. So teams in Africa will struggle, you know, but we are we have a big impact in South Africa because of the country, and, you know, we have cosmopolitan country, and we were really, really impacted a lot. But we're doing our best. We follow protocols. We train in small groups now. We sanitize. We make sure that the dressing rooms are all right. The balls and the flags, everything that we touch, we use, must be sanitized. And we really, really strict into that because we don't want to have cases in the team. I'm trying so hard that I don't have a case of somebody inside having the virus after we have tested, you know. So we have to be so extra careful, and it costs us a lot of money. Imagine we complain about money as Mamelodi Sundowns. What about the other teams? What about the rest of Africa? Yes, we are shortchanged, but we're doing our best. And if we had more resources, we'll deal with it much better, to be honest.
I know Abdel knows about the struggles of a lot of those teams, some of those struggles that you're talking about, Coach. Abdel, you know fully well just how the extra challenges when it comes that have come for the African teams when it comes with COVID-19. What kind of support have you given to some of those nations and some of those teams?
Thank you, Carol. For the moment, we did the minimum. I mean, the minimum from our side was a financial support. Between the support from FIFA and from CAF, every African member association will receive 2 million USD to try to handle the current situation. But we know it's not enough. And we know that all the member associations are different. We have also provided to all our member associations some guidelines to resume the football activities, to try to help them to build their own guidelines, because at the end, each country has a different situation with COVID-19. As mentioned by the coach today, South Africa, they didn't reach the peak yet, so the number of cases is still increasing rapidly, while, for instance, in other countries like Tunisia, it's quite under control today. So now each actor at the local level, they have to work together, as mentioned by Hicham. The main word today is unity. Based on the financial support provided by FIFA and CAF, I hope that the states also will be able to provide financial support to their sport organizations locally, but they have to work together on a local level to try to handle all the complicated situations that we are facing today. And of course, at FIFA level, at CAF level, we'll try to support as much as possible on that sense regarding financial support, but also technical support.
Hicham, you know, Didier was talking about some of the positives and the trends that Africa now needs to adopt, you know, particularly looking at coming out of COVID-19. What are some of the other learnings that you think we need to embrace now moving forward, Hicham?
Thank you, Carol. Well, those will not be necessarily only trends, but sometimes wishes. But some of them are trends indeed. And I will start with exactly what Mr. Drogba has said about approaching the game as a business product, as an industry where, of course, it's a sport, it's a social phenomenon, but it's also a product that you need to consider. So we need to look towards that element. It's already happening, but it needs to be straightened across the continent. And that comes down to the scheduling, the kind of stadia we use, the kind of people in the administration of clubs and federations that are there, their competence, and so on and so forth. So approaching it as a product is extremely important, so that even the partners and the broadcasters can trust what they are investing on. So that's extremely important. But that leads me also to another important trend that is, and we have a living example today, is the involvement of Mr. Drogba after his glittering career. The fact that today more and more legends and fantastic players are willing to invest themselves into either a political role or a leading role within the ecosystem of African football is very good news to me, because we need their knowledge, their know-how, and they have both learnings from different sides, from the African continent together with what they have learned throughout their own careers. So that's extremely important as well. There are other trends, I believe, as well that are important, and I think compulsory. The next one, I think, is the education. Today, it's extremely important that we find a way for clubs that are having young kids with them at the grassroots level, that it becomes compulsory for those kids to have a basic education linked to what they are doing at the academies, so that if they don't make it to the top level, they can have at least something to work for and to look forward to. So I think it's critical that Africa focuses on the human capital and make sure to develop it. And that does not go only to the players. We need to create and leverage on the need to form and train and hire competent people within clubs, academies, federations, and all across Africa. There's no talent on the continent is everywhere. We have amazingly brilliant minds all across the continent. We just need to harness them. We just need to connect them together. We need, for example, to let universities that do offer sports degrees in management to do conventions with federations or clubs, for example, to help ensure that the staff or the prospective people that are willing to enter the industry, that they are competent to do so, because passion is not enough to work in football management. So those are important things, together with other areas. I mean, I could drag on, but one that comes to mind is also the need to harness data, to make sure that we have data that we can base our decisions on, that we take care of our archives, that we take care of our history, because at the end of the day, you want African clubs as well to engage with their fans and the communities. While every African fan might support Chelsea or Milan or Real Madrid, at the end of the day, they're still part of a local community where clubs do exist. So clubs need to work towards engaging their fans and need to do a lot of work in that regard, in my view.
Hicham, when you said education, I saw a big smile on the face of Coach Pete. So I know he's going to want to talk about this because he's very passionate about that. Education, development, grassroots football for the future of African football. I've got a question here in particular for Didier. This question is from Al Sapong. Al, thank you so much for sending this through to us. He says, Didier, you played a forward game with Chelsea, which was a mixture of African flamboyance and hard, fair aggression that some would say is more akin to Europe and South America. Do you think that African football generally has moved forward enough in terms of tactics, or is there still more development that is required here?
Well, I believe tactics and development is something continued. So yes, we are moving on. You see, we have even more players in the best leagues, more African players in the best leagues, and they are becoming dominant. And they are dominant. Mo Salah, Sadio Mane, Aubameyang. There's this new generation of players who are dominant in the leagues. So I believe and I hope that they're taking all the experience from the managers, from the lifestyle in this industry that you must have to succeed, and they bring it back to our countries, and share their knowledge, share the experience. But like you said, education is
Didier, sorry. Didier, can you center yourself in the image? Just center yourself in the image.
Like this?
There we go. Yes, thank you.
Thank
Continue.
you. Sorry about that. So like I said, Mr. Hicham said, education is the key. Education, you have to educate the players, because, for example, in Ivory Coast, some of them don't know how to read. They don't know how to write. So education is vital if you want to make sure that not only you create good football players, but it's a career that lasts for 5, 10, even 20 years when you are at the best, but after that there's a life, so the move from stopping to play to going to a normal life, a social life, it's very difficult, and I've seen it because I've been playing with some players who had big contracts in big clubs. But education is huge, it's general, but in education you can educate players, you can educate also coaches. When you speak about development, I speak about educating ourselves. It's when you are educated that you can develop your mind, you can develop infrastructures, you can develop partnership with universities and federation, and then you can see a real improvement in what we are doing. But once again, I believe we are dominant in most of the best leagues. So yes, I'm really positive about that.
There has been an improvement. Okay. We've got a poll that's been running. The poll: in which sector should African football focus more to follow its growth path? 8% said merchandising. 21% said sponsorships is where we need to focus more. 33% said player development and scouting. And 38% said media broadcasting. Coach, would you like to talk about the important trends or the African football of the future? Which areas do we need to focus on here?
I think we should not be too critical on Africa because Africa has done exceptionally well. You know, we have proved we can. We have personnel, we have the brain capacity. We just don't have the big resources that Europe has or UEFA has. If you talk about stadium development, smart stadia in South Africa, we have smart stadia. We've got big screens, we've got Wi-Fi. We've turned our stadiums into big businesses. Within the stadiums, we have restaurants. Our stadia are precincts. You know, it's a tourism place. It's not a stadium that was built, and when you go back to South Africa, you say, "Oh, this stadium was so good in the World Cup. Now it's no longer self-sufficient." We have all those things, Carol. You know, we have data, we have technology for tickets without buying tickets through your phone, and you don't even have a ticket itself to come in. We are there in Africa. We have done that. And look at how the production of the Champions League was this year, because I've been on Champions League all the time. I mean, Hicham and Abdel know my team lives in Champions League. I mean, we are all there. Look at the production of the game; it's brilliant. Look at the pitches that we play.
Well done, coach.
Flat surface. Come on, guys. We have done well. We have kept the World Cup stadium are there, and when Wydad comes, they know where they play. They know we put them in the same hotel as where Barcelona was now. You know, and we have the high level. We have kept the quality, Carol, and we have ambition. And I'm happy that now put on the first pro license. The first pro license. Imagine that we have, when been there for a professional license, we are the first group, and I'm humbled that Morocco has invited me, through CAF, of course. This CAF, we have invited me with the Cisse, the coach of Senegal, all my coaches, our African brothers. We are all in there. Why you want to be there? We want to be exemplary. We played football, like you said. We all played football. But we need to be the new generation that not played in football in Europe and don't have nothing to give back, like Didier is doing. I mean, an amazing job he's doing. So we need to lead the technical side, and I'm happy that we're doing CAF Pro license, and I'm happy that it will move on, and that's the education that we're talking about. Coach education. If you look at the quality of Al Ahly, if you look at the quality of Wydad, if you look at the quality of Raja, you look at the quality of Mamelodi Sundowns. I mean, we just played Barcelona with Iniesta, Messi, Xavi, Rakitic, the full lineup on the pitch. And everybody said, oh, they're going to get 10-0. You know, what happened? No, the score was 3-1, and we played. And it was a beautiful game, full stadium, and we showed that Africa has the level to play at that level. We played with Barca, and it was not just a game, exhibition game, it was a serious big game. And Africa has it, and Morocco has done it when they hosted the Club World Cup. We've been to Club World Cup. We never embarrassed. So if we put our energies and our resources together, a little bit of sponsorship, you know, we need a little bit of cash injection. I mean, if you look at the UEFA related to CAF, the sponsorship is not the same. We need more. We are contributing to UEFA. Let's be honest. Our players, Didier was there. They come from the motherland. You know, they come from the continent, and they've made the Champions League good. We know, you know. So, and we also buy the rights of the Champions League. Africa provides money to UEFA. We buy the rights. We give them the players. So we need a little bit of support from Europe also to go direction of Africa, because Africa makes UEFA look good. Let's be honest.
Okay. Abdel, I know that you want to talk as well about women's football, because that's another area that we need to focus about. And we know that CAF just released the women's football strategy. Tell us about that. And also your recent decision, of course, of prioritizing club football, it would seem, over national women's football.
Thank you very much, Carl. I know that a lot of people have been disappointed by the fact that we decided to cancel, unfortunately, this edition of the Women's Africa Cup of Nations, mainly due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 and to the impossibility to try to reschedule it next year due to the very busy schedule of international women football calendar. It's true that women football today, we consider it as one of our main priority in terms of development, especially that that in 2023, we will have the new format of the Women World Cup. We should be entitled to new slots. The African continent today, unfortunately, we have only 3 slots, so we definitely wants to have more. And to have more, we have also to show to the world, to show to FIFA, to show to the other confederation that we deserve more slots. And for that, we have built this strategy that will be released in the next few weeks around 5 priorities. The first one is the development. I mean, we have to accelerate the growth of the women's game at all level and all across Africa. This could be done by giving more opportunities for women and girls to play, by increasing the training opportunities for the technical staff. As we said, the education is very important. Also, the second priority for us are the competitions. We need to have much more competitions than what we have today. This is why we decided to launch the Women's Champions League next year. I hope also that within the next 3 years, we will be able to play youth Women's Africa Cup of Nations under 20, under 17, because we know that it's through competitions the competition are the greatest driver for football development. So this is something very important for us. The third part regarding the women development is the marketing aspect. We need to build the product, as we said. And today we have a great opportunity. As the coach said, in the CAF Champions League, the TV production is amazing because we have money. But we know that at all level, we don't have the same resources. But today, thanks to digitalization, this is something that we can, producing a match and streaming it will not cost more than 1,000 USD. And if you do not, if your matches are not visible, you will not get resources. So we want to have more and more games and to have them much more visible. And we need to build a strong and unified women's football brand in Africa. And maybe the last part is the social impact, as mentioned by my colleagues here. I mean, one of our role is to leverage the power of football to socially impact African women and girls positively. Football has to be also a tool to educate the girls, to empower them, to encourage them, and to promote a better also image of football in Africa. So these are today the main pillar of our women's strategy.
Great stuff. Thank you so much, Abdel. I'm going to take that as your closing comment because we're out of time. Can you believe it? I think we need like another day, David, to discuss this.
We do, but do you know what? I'm gonna take an exec decisions here. I'm gonna take an exec decision here, and I'd like closing statements as well from your other speakers, only in the interest of balance and fairness, because we started late. African football is extremely important. Of course, World Football Summit would hope to have been in Africa this year, but sadly because of coronavirus we couldn't be. So this is really your opportunity, and we do want to hear from the remainder of your speakers, please.
Agreed. All right, so let's go for closing comments and statements. Hicham, I'm going to start off with you.
Thank you very much, Carol. Well, on top of thanking all the guests and the World Football Summit, I just insist and hope that really every club and federation on the continent take seriously the importance of new technology, of digital penetration on the continent. We have a young continent that uses technology and smart mobile phones and so on. So please engage your fans using those emotional commitments that are needed for football to grow. You can still be a Simba supporter together with Barcelona, just like I'm a Raja Casablanca and AC Milan fan. Both are different type of products, but there needs to be stronger engagement and stronger work on that. And at the same time, I also appeal to the stakeholders, together with the governments, to help federations have decent stadia to play the national leagues, because we need to focus on the national leagues. The Cup of Nations is not the only one, of course, but the national leagues are important, and stadia are part of that. So that was the message that I wanted to bring forward as part of the closing statement.
Awesome stuff. Thank you so much, Hicham. It's been a great pleasure having you as part of this wonderful panel. Coach Mosimane, your parting shot, short and sweet, please.
Yeah, I'll be sharp and short. Yeah, I think football education is key for Africa. We have the ability to produce the quality of football at the highest level if we are supported. And I think we are doing well. We can just improve the stadia, especially CAF Champions League. When it comes to the group stages, everything looks good. But the preliminary stage, sometimes we can do better in terms of state and where we host those games. But we also understand the challenges Africa has, you know. But what's standing out for me is women's football. I watched the World Cup. I mean, how beautiful they play, build up from the back, top quality, you know, high level. And we have a team in South Africa that wins the league. And I saw that there's going to be Women's Champions League. I can guarantee you now, Mamelodi Sundowns women's football will be in the top 4 in Africa. We are doing exceptionally. We're doing very well.
We're going to hold you to that, Coach. Thank you so much for being a part of the discussion. Monsieur Drogba, your parting shots as well. Hopefully in the future, President Drogba.
Well, I hope, but like I always say, it's not, the goal is not to be president. The goal is to bring people together, to be able to impact the game and to impact society as at a bigger scale. And because I believe that football is a sport that brings people together. People, you know, I've experienced it a few years ago when my country was at war, and we saw the impact of bringing people, sending messages, positive messages to bring people together, and it works, and we live in 2020, and we have all, you know, the world is changing, and this evolution of the technology is something that we need to use to improve and grow as countries, as continents, and help the next generation. You know, we have in Ivory Coast almost 70% of the population is under 33 years old. So there's a generation there that you can educate with technology, and also I encourage like governments to see football as a way for them to have an impact on society, a positive impact on society, but also to bring the business impact, you know, involving all the big companies that we have and who are successful actually worldwide to invest into football. This is the only way, I think, to help us develop.
Okay. Thank you, David. That's it. That's it for the African.
Thank you so much, Carol. Listen,
it's onwards and upwards.
It's such a fascinating topic. As you said, I wish we had more time. But one thing we do know, with U5 involved in the game, we know that the African football of tomorrow is in very, very safe hands indeed. Thank you so much. Merci bien à tous. Carol, Hicham, Didier, Pitso, and Abdel. Really, really appreciate it. See you again very soon. Ladies and gents, we're moving on. And next, we're dealing with visa and women's football partnerships as a catalyst for change. Stay with us.